Heartwarming story. Nurse's incredible transformation. Discover how a patient's father gave her a new lease on life. The chaos of the Chicago General Hospital was a whirlwind of blinking lights, urgent beeping machines, and the shuffling of worn-out feet echoing in the sterile hallways. Sarah, a hard-working nurse with tired eyes reflecting her relentless spirit, maneuvered through the frantic pace. At just 28, she carried the weight of her single mother's health issues and her little brother's aspirations on her shoulders. The walls of the hospital felt like both a refuge and a battleground, a place where she fought fiercely against the stark realities of underfunded healthcare. That particular afternoon, Sarah felt every ounce of her exhaustion, but something shifted as she entered Jacob's room. There, in that sterile environment, laughter bubbled out of the 10-year-old boy like fresh spring water. His infectious giggle chased away her fatigue. Jacob, with his bright blue eyes and an insatiable curiosity, was a beacon of hope amid the ceaseless struggles she faced every day. Just moments before, his father, Mike, a gentle giant and a Marine Corps veteran, had shared a story that wrapped around Sarah's heart like warmth on a chilly day. Over the next few days, as Sarah worked tirelessly to ensure Jacob received the best care, she and Mike found moments of solace in their conversations. They exchanged stories of resilience, his tales from the front lines, her battles on the ward. Each shared word created a bond as strong as steel, a rare connection amid swirling chaos. With their friendship blossoming, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps together they could rise above their challenges. But then the storm hit. A horrifying mix-up regarding Jacob's treatment plan erupted, sending waves of panic crashing through the hospital. The administration, caught in a web of outdated policies and prejudice, put Sarah's every effort under scrutiny. As confusion darkened the air, her heart sank. Would her commitment to this boy's care be enough? Would they face discrimination because of their social standings? Before Sarah could fully grasp the chaos around her, Mike's voice rang out, strong and defiant. "This isn't right," he declared, standing tall in the face of the administration. His passion sparked a fire in her, a realization that she too had to fight, not just for Jacob, but for herself. A crying, internal battle played out in her chest, and the moments of despair started giving way to a fierce determination. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As conversations swirled and passions ignited, a collective reckoning began within the hospital walls, stirring discussions about compassion and the true meaning of sacrifice. Sarah stood alongside Mike, a woman who had so often felt inadequate, now radiating an unapologetic strength, united against the society that often overlooked the vulnerable. Their challenge wasn't just against the healthcare system, it was against the very prejudices that had held them back. But as the uncertainty loomed, one question hung heavy in the air. Would they rise, hand in hand, above the barriers threatening to break them, or would they become just another statistic lost in the struggle for justice? The answer, still waiting in the wings, was poised to unfold as their journey led them down paths neither could ever have imagined. New lease on life. The atmosphere in the hospital shifted the following day, charged with a sense of urgency that swept through the corridors like an electric current. Nurses whispered in hushed tones, and doctors exchanged glances filled with concern. Sarah could feel the intensity wrapping around her like a heavy cloak. This wasn't just about Jacob. It was bigger than that. It was about every patient who had slipped through the cracks of a broken system. She walked into Jacob's room. Sarah noticed Mike leaning against the wall, arms crossed, his expression a storm of determination. He looked up, meeting her eyes with a fire that ignited a sense of purpose within her. "We need to make our voices heard," he said fiercely. The clarity of his words hit Sarah in her core. This was not just a battle against bureaucracy. It was a fight for every child who deserved better. "Let us do it," she replied, feeling the weight of responsibility surge through her. Jacob sat propped up in his bed, eyes wide. He didn't fully understand, but his gaze flicked between his father and Sarah, sensing the tension. "Are you scared?" Jacob asked softly. "No," Sarah said, kneeling to meet his gaze. "We've got you, and we're going to make sure everything is okay." She smiled, trying to make him feel brave. But inside, she felt a swell of uncertainty. Would they have the strength to take on the system? Over the next few hours, they developed a plan. Sarah and Mike reached out to other families who had faced similar struggles, bringing in their stories. They drafted letters, highlighting the injustices and calling for accountability. With each voice they gathered, their momentum grew, transforming whispers of despair into a resounding chorus of hope. As evening fell, they stood in front of a small group of supporters in the hospital's waiting room. Parents, some still in scrubs, others with weary eyes, gathered around. They shared their experiences, recounting tales of delays, miscommunications, and the ever-present anxiety that loomed over them. It was raw. It was powerful. It sparked something deep within Sarah, a realization that she wasn't alone. "We need to stand together," Mike declared, his voice steady. "This isn't about individual battles. It's about unity. It's about our children." The crowd nodded, the spirit of solidarity burning bright. Sarah felt a surge of hope ripple through her. That night, after the rally, Sarah found herself unable to sleep. She paced her small apartment, thoughts racing. How could they push for change when the administration seemed so entrenched? The question spun like a whirlwind in her mind, drowning her in doubt. But then she remembered Jacob's laughter and the fierce love in Mike's eyes. They deserved this fight. The following day, armed with newfound courage, Sarah marched into the hospital administration office, flanked by Mike. Together, they demanded to speak with those at the helm. Their hearts raced, but their minds were clear. This was their moment. As they waited for their meeting, Mike turned to her. "No matter what happens in there, remember this. You're not just a nurse. You're a champion for these kids. Right?" she said, squeezing his hand. But deep down, fear knotted in her stomach. Would their voices be heard? Would they make any impact? The door creaked open, and a tall figure stepped out, removing glasses and running a hand through his hair. "Let us talk," he said, as gravity filled the room. Sarah took a breath, ready to step into the unknown. What would come next could change everything. The moment they entered the office, Sarah was struck by the stark contrast between the sterile environment and the warmth of their shared mission. Her heart pounded in her ears. The walls felt like they were closing in as she focused on the man behind the desk, who had a look of mild annoyance on his face, as if this meeting was just another box to check off his long list of duties. "Thank you for coming," he said, brushing a few papers aside. "What can I do for you?" Mike stepped forward, voice steady yet firm. "We're here to talk about the difficulties families face in this hospital. It's unacceptable, and we have stories that need to be heard." "Difficulties?" The man raised an eyebrow, a hint of skepticism creeping into his voice. "I'm not sure what you're implying." Sarah felt a surge of anger. This wasn't just about numbers or policies. It was about lives. She took a breath, gathering her thoughts. "It's about the kids and the way they are treated. Delays in treatment, miscommunication. Jacob is just one example. But we've gathered so many stories from families who feel powerless." The administrator leaned back in his chair, linking his fingers. "I understand you may be frustrated, but the hospital operates under stringent guidelines. It's not an easy problem to solve." Mike clenched his fists, clearly frustrated. "You have the power to make changes, to listen to us. You can help us forge a better path for these families. And how do you suggest we do that?" He shot back, remaining nonchalant as if dismissing their concerns was just part of the job. Sarah could feel her heart race. This was at the moment they either broke through or hit a wall. "We need transparency," she said, leaning slightly forward. "More communication, more compassion. The families here shouldn't feel like they're fighting an invisible enemy." The administrator's expression remained cool, but Sarah could see a flicker of something acknowledgement, perhaps. "These are valid concerns," he conceded, though it felt like a small victory. "But change takes time, and resources are limited." "Change needs urgency," Mike insisted. "It's not just about policy, it's about lives on the line." Sarah nodded, her resolve strengthening with every word they shared. The moment felt electric, as if they were standing on the edge of a precipice. Would they leap into change, or would they be pushed back into despair? They spent nearly an hour laying out their case, fueled by the stories of other families, by Jacob, and by sheer determination. The more they spoke, the more Sarah could see a shift in the atmosphere. The administrator's defenses began to lower, though he still wore a mask of practiced professionalism. "Okay," he finally said, with a sigh that suggested defeat. "I'll arrange a meeting with department heads. We can discuss this further." Relief washed over Sarah, but alongside it, a new wave of anxiety rushed in. "And what about immediate changes?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Kids are still here, needing our help now." He paused, considering her words. "I'll look into starting a family advisory board. You'll be included." It wasn't the perfect solution, but it was a start. They had planted a seed, one that could grow into a movement if nurtured properly. As they stepped out of the office, the weight of what they'd just accomplished flooded Sarah with a powerful mix of emotions: hope, fear, anticipation. They'd made an impact, but how far would it really go? "Well," Mike said, his smile breaking through the tension, "that was something." "Yeah," Sarah replied, still trying to process what had just happened. "But it's just the beginning. We have so much to do." Then Jacob's voice echoed in her mind, a gentle reminder of why they were fighting. "We need to keep going," she said, resolute now. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from one of the other parents. "You won't believe what is happening in the ward." Her heart sank. What could it be? "What's wrong?" Mike asked, looking over her shoulder. "I don't know, but I have to find out." They hurried down the hall, adrenaline surging, ready to face whatever came next. Would it be another hurdle, or a breakthrough? Only time would tell. Sarah burst into the ward, her heart racing. Mike stayed close, his brow furrowed with concern. The moment they reached the nurse's station, a group of parents was huddled together, their faces a mix of fear and determination. She felt a twinge of dread. "What is going on?" Sarah asked one of the mothers, whose hands were trembling slightly. "They've stopped all the treatments for the day," she said, voice shaky. "There's some kind of issue with the pharmacy. Nobody can get the medications they need." The words hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. "What do you mean, stopped? This can't be happening. Kids are depending on those meds." "It's not just the treatments," another parent chimed in. "Rumor has it a new policy went into effect without any notice. They keep saying they're reassessing protocols. But our kids, they don't have time for that." Mike clenched his jaw, anger flaring in his eyes. "This is exactly what we were fighting against. How can they do this?" "Let us talk to someone," Sarah urged, scanning the ward for a familiar face. She spotted Nurse Tracy, the one nurse who had always shown compassion toward Jacob and the other kids. She raised her voice. "Tracy, can you help us?" Tracy turned, her expression grave. "I'm sorry," she said, stepping closer. "I'm just as frustrated as you are. The pharmacy is struggling with stock issues, and new protocols mean they can't distribute what they have." "What sort of protocols?" Mike pressed, his voice tight. "It's complicated," Tracy replied, looking around. "And there are a lot of moving parts. But they don't seem to understand that these are lives we're dealing with. Kids are counting on us, and time isn't on their side." Sarah felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, helplessness, disbelief. "We can't let this go on," she said firmly, her heart pounding with resolve. "We need to voice our concerns, create some noise. Parents are ready to stand up for their kids." Tracy nodded slowly. "But you'll need to rally everyone. If you gather enough support, maybe they'll listen." With a newfound determination, Sarah scanned the room, noticing whispered conversations and anxious expressions. "Okay, everyone," she called out, her voice strong and steady. "We need to come together and demand answers. If we don't speak up, who will fight for our kids?" The energy in the room shifted. Heads bobbed in agreement, voices rising in urgency. A sense of unity washed over them. Sarah felt her heart swell. This was what it meant to fight for their children, not just for Jacob, but for every child, depending on compassion, understanding, and urgency. "What is next?" a father asked, stepping closer. "We'll gather outside the administrator's office," Sarah said, "and we'll make sure they know we won't back down. We'll tell our stories and explain what's at stake. Together, we are stronger." A wave of determination surged through the crowd, faces lighting up with hope. They were ready to fight for what was right. Sarah knew how fragile this moment was. They needed to act fast, before the anger faded and complacency settled back in. Just as they began to form their plan, Sarah's phone buzzed again. It was another message from the parent group, but this time, it didn't say anything about the current crisis. Urgent. There has been another incident in the hospital. Meet us in the cafeteria. Her stomach twisted. What now? She whispered, dread creeping in again. Mike met her gaze, concern etched on his face. Do you think it's related? We need to check it out. Let us go, Sarah said, fear mixing with determination. As they hurried down the hallway, she steeled herself for whatever awaited them. Every second mattered now, and they desperately needed to get to the bottom of this once and for all. What was happening in the cafeteria could change everything. As they raced down the sterile corridor, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. What kind of incident could have occurred? Was it connected to the disruption of treatments? She felt a sense of urgency driving her forward, every step echoing the fear that clawed at her heart. When they pushed through the cafeteria doors, the atmosphere was tense. Parents and staff crowded around a group gathered near the coffee station. The murmurs bounced off the walls, a cacophony of anxiety and concern. Sarah could see Nurse Tracy among them, her face pale. What happened? Sarah asked as she approached, Mike close behind. Tracy turned, her eyes wide with fear. There has been an incident with one of the children. A little boy, he collapsed. Her voice was thick with emotion. They suspect it might have been an allergic reaction. No one could reach the medication he needed. Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her. No. Please tell me he is okay. She suddenly thought of Jacob. What if it had been him? Tracy shook her head, her resolve wavering. They're doing everything they can. The doctors are on it, but we're short on medications right now. Her voice trailed off, overwhelmed. Can't we fix this? Mike's voice was sharp, filled with an urgency that electrified the room. We have to do something. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of all those years of fighting silence on their shoulders. It wasn't just about her child anymore. It was about every child who deserved care and compassion. She raised her voice, trying to harness the panic flowing through the room. Listen, we need to get organized, right now. We can't let this happen again. Let us contact the media. We need to make our voices heard. Gather support. It's time to take action. Several parents nodded vigorously, their fear transforming into resolve. Sarah's right, a mother spoke up. If we stand together, we can push for change. We can hold them accountable. But how? A father asked, desperation creeping into his tone. We don't have connections. We're just parents. Sarah swung her gaze across the crowd, her heart swelling with determination. We are more than just parents. We are a community. Each of us has a story. If we gather those stories, if we share our struggles, people will listen. Mike stepped forward, suddenly animated. We can create a petition, gather signatures, get everything documented our kids' needs, what's at stake. Then we can approach the board with real numbers and voices behind us. As the parents began to huddle together, trading ideas and thoughts, Sarah could feel the adrenaline pulsing through her veins. She could see hope igniting in their eyes, pushing aside the shadows of fear. They were rising together as a united front. But just as the excitement began to build, a nurse rushed in, breathless and pale. The little boy, he's being taken to surgery. They need blood donors, urgently. The air thickened with tension. What blood type? Mike asked immediately, a steely determination etched on his face. AB positive, the nurse replied, her voice wavering. Silence hung heavily for a moment as the parents glanced at each other, realizing the weight of the decision before them. Sarah's heart raced. This was it, a critical moment. Who can donate? She asked, urgency in her tone. We can save him. One by one, hands shot up. Hope surged within Sarah as she watched the solidarity. This wasn't just about policy, now it was about lives. As they organized, emotions ran high. Fear mingled with a fierce resolve in the air. Sarah allowed herself a moment of gratitude for the strength of this makeshift family. But a thought flickered across her mind. What happens if they don't succeed? What would they do when the dust settled? Even as they prepared to act, the question hung there, heavy with possibility. How far would they go to fight for their children's lives? With that thought clenched tightly in her chest, Sarah pressed forward, ready to face whatever came next. They had to keep pushing, to keep fighting. But deep down, she wondered, when would it be enough? Nurse Tracy hurried out with the urgency of an arrow released from a bow. The parents, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, moved with newfound determination. Sarah inched closer to Mike, her heart racing. We can't let this be just another moment that passes us by, she said, her voice tinged with an intensity that reflected the fear inside her. Absolutely, Mike replied, rubbing his hands together nervously. We need to stay focused. Time is ticking. As they began to draft a plan, their initial panic morphed into something actionable. Parents clustered together, frantically discussing how to maximize their impact. The cafeteria echoed with voices, each one bolstering the resolve of those around them. They discussed approaching local media, finding the right platforms that would amplify their message. Let us not just gather signatures, Sarah suggested, feeling her voice gain volume. Let us share our stories. Get this on social media. We need to engage and connect on a level that shifts the narrative. The weight of the situation pressed against her chest. Each minute that passed without news felt like falling further into an abyss where hope waned. Memories of Jacob's laughter flickered through her mind, their warmth juxtaposed against the palpable anxiety that filled the room. Several parents shared their experiences. A mother spoke of her son's battle with asthma, how they had struggled to find the right care. A father recounted the pain of watching his daughter receive inadequate treatment for her rare condition. Each story piled on top of the last, weaving a tapestry of determination and heartache as they shared. Sarah could feel the emotional current pulsing through their gathering, binding them together like an unbreakable thread. The fear no longer felt isolating. It resonated in each heart surrounding her. They weren't just families in crisis. They were a united front demanding justice and responsibility from the system that had failed them. Minutes melted into what felt like hours when Tracy returned. Her face was drawn, each line etched with worry. The air grew still, and all eyes turned to her. They stabilized him, she began, her voice trembling, tracing a line of relief through the crowd. But he is still in critical condition. They'll need more blood, and he might require another surgery soon. A collective sigh echoed, relief and dread intertwining. Yet Sarah felt the initial spark of hope light within her soul. What can we do to help now? She asked, re-energized by the news. The best thing you can do is spread the word, Tracy urged. Your voices can reach others. We need more volunteers to donate blood, especially those with AB positive. Several parents exchanged quick glances, their resolve solidifying. We'll reach out, one father proclaimed. Let us mobilize. This isn't just about us. Sarah felt a fire ignite among them, a passionate desire to fight for every child facing similar challenges. We can't stop the moment we leave this room, she insisted. This is just the beginning. The determination radiating from the group was palpable. Sarah looked around as voices chimed in, people eager to take the initiative, friends, neighbors, even strangers standing together for a common cause. But as they formed a plan, unease crept back into Sarah's mind. How far could they push this movement? Would mere words be enough when lives hung in the balance? With every victory, small or large, came a creeping fear of what lay ahead. Could they sustain this momentum? And would it ever be enough? The air buzzed with ideas and plans, but beneath it all lingered a question that haunted Sarah. What if this fight changed them forever? Before she could voice her thoughts, someone shouted, "Let us get to work." Who's with me? Sarah's heart surged. They were in this together, but the uncertainty loomed vast and unforgiving. What challenges awaited them outside these walls? And just as they began to rally spirits once more, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, silencing their excitement. What had just happened? The crash reverberated through the cafeteria, sending a shiver of apprehension through Sarah and the others. Conversations sputtered to a halt, and the once vibrant atmosphere dulled, replaced by a collective anxiety that hung heavy in the air. What was that? Someone whispered, the words barely audible, laden with dread. They exchanged worried glances, hearts pounding in unison. Mike shifted and stepped toward the door, concern etched on his face. I'll go check, he said, resolute. As he moved, others instinctively raised their voices, asking if anyone else wanted to follow, but the fear kept them rooted in place. They need us here, Sarah urged, her heart racing. We can't lose this momentum. Just then, Tracy reappeared, her expression tight. Everyone, stay calm. We're assessing a situation in the hallway, she announced, her voice commanding but trembling. We're doing everything we can. What happened? Sarah asked, her voice strained between panic and urgency. There was an accident. Someone dropped a cart loaded with supplies. No serious injuries, but it caused a bit of chaos. Just a moment, please. Tracy reassured them, yet the anxious energy made it hard to believe. The uncertainty wrapped around them like a fog. Sarah felt the beat of her own heart thundering in her ears, a pulse of anxiety mingling with the sparks of hope generated just moments before. What if there's another crisis? A mother voiced, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears. We need to be prepared. Yes. Another parent agreed, echoing the sentiment. For every challenge they face, we must stand ready. We can't let distractions weaken our resolve. A nod of agreement passed through the group. They began murmuring amongst themselves again, voices rising with purpose. Sarah felt a boost of energy wash over her. This wasn't just about Jacob anymore. It was bigger than any single child. Let us channel this energy, she called out, determination spilling from her. Let us set up a charity drive, gather supplies, money, whatever we can do. People are out there willing to help. The room transformed again, voices of resolve igniting like wildfire. Ideas sparked and intertwined like branches, growing stronger with each suggestion: bake sales, social media challenges, community events. Each parent was more than just a voice. They became a beacon of hope, channeling their pain into action. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed again from the hallway, sharper this time. Startled gasps surrounded Sarah, the voices waning to an eerie stillness. What is happening out there? She demanded, fear clawing at her throat. At that moment, a hospital staff member hurried in, eyes wide. We need all volunteers. There has been an emergency with a child in critical condition. They need us now. The words sliced through the room, reviving the air with urgency. Parents scrambled to their feet, adrenaline overshadowing their earlier fears. They rallied together, their shared experiences transforming into a rallying cry. Let us go, Mike shouted, catching everyone's gaze. We've got work to do. As they surged forward, a thrilling blend of hope and dread filled Sarah's heart. Each step closer to the door was a leap into the unknown. Would they be able to make a real difference? But just as they reached the hallway, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a little girl, her wide eyes full of fear but shimmering with resilience. As she stepped closer to them, Sarah realized the very reason they were fighting had just materialized before them. With her heart racing, Sarah reached out to the girl, but what would happen next was beyond anything she could have anticipated. Would they be able to help her? Was their fight truly just beginning? The little girl's name was Lily, and she looked lost and scared, her tiny hands clutching a worn teddy bear. Sarah's heart ached at the sight. She stepped forward, crouching down to meet the girl's gaze. Hey there, sweetie, she said softly. What is your name? Lily, the girl whispered, her voice trembling. I can't find my mom. She was right there, but then everything got loud, and I got scared. The cafeteria felt like a whirlwind of chaos, yet in that moment, it faded to silence for Sarah. Here was a child lost amidst the uproar, her fear cutting deeper than the loud crashes. Sarah gently took Lily's hand. You're safe now, okay? We're going to help you find your mom. Just stay close to me. With a nod, Lily's grip tightened around Sarah's hand. As they moved through the thinning crowd, Sarah noticed the parents organizing themselves, their earlier anxiety morphing into focused determination. People were forming small groups, some searching for the injured, others offering comfort and gathering supplies. Let me help, came a call from behind. It was Mike, rushing back after handing off some resources. He spotted Sarah and Lily, a flicker of recognition lighting his expression. You found her? Yes, Sarah replied, heart swelling with pride. We're looking for her mom. Mike nodded. Let us split up. I'll ask around while you stay with her. We can't let her feel alone. As he rushed off, Sarah crouched down once more. Lily, she said gently, can you tell me what your mom looks like? She has curly hair and a blue dress, Lily answered, her eyes wide. She always wears that when we come here. Got it, Sarah replied, her mind spurring into action. Okay, let us call for her. Can you help me shout her name? Lily took a deep breath and nodded. Mom, she called, her little voice echoing in the busy hallway. Sarah joined in, their voices intertwining amid the sea of shouts and hurried movements. Moments dragged on like hours until finally, a voice pierced through the chaos. Lily, where are you? Sarah turned, eyes scanning the mass of people until they landed on a woman pushing through the crowd, her face a blend of relief and fear. She was wearing a blue dress, her curls bouncing wildly as she hurried towards them. "Mommy!" Lily squealed, breaking free from Sarah's grasp. She rushed into her mother's arms, the weight of fear melting away in an instant. Sarah watched the reunion, her heart pounding in her chest. Recognizing the enormity of the moment, she felt a wave of overwhelming emotions wash over her. This was why they were all fighting, for moments like these, where hope could shine through in the darkest times. Lily's mother hugged her tightly, shaking off her own fear as she glanced at Sarah. "Thank you so much. I thought I'd lost her." "It's okay," Sarah reassured her, emotions bubbling as she stepped back to give them space. She is a brave little girl. As they bonded over their relief, Sarah watched the world around her. The energy had shifted, people moving with renewed purpose, hope beginning to replace the fear that had once held them captive. But as Sarah turned to join the efforts, a loud alarm rang out, sending a fresh wave of panic through the hall. What had they missed? Was this really over, or was there more trouble just around the corner? Before she could even take a breath, the voice of Tracy echoed down the hall, urgency piercing through the noise. "We need everyone's attention. It's not just about helping anymore. We're facing another emergency." The unexpected turn of events gripped Sarah's heart. What was coming next? Were they really prepared to handle whatever lay ahead? Sarah's pulse raced as the clamor around her swelled. The relieved expressions from moments ago were quickly replaced by confusion. She strained to hear Tracy over the din, her heart thumping with an urgency she hadn't felt until now. "Listen up, everyone," Tracy called again, louder this time. "There's been a security breach. We need to lock down the building until we can assess the situation." Panic rippled through the crowd. Parents clutched their children tighter, confusion mixing with fear. Sarah felt an instinctive need to protect Lily, who had just found her mother. The joy of reunion was shadowed by the uncertainty creeping back in. "Mommy!" Lily's voice quivered as she clutched her mother's leg, her little fear resurfacing. The mother knelt down, the blue dress fabric brushing against the floor. "It's okay, sweetie," she said, smoothing Lily's curls. "We're safe together." But Sarah could see the flicker of anxiety in her eyes. "Everyone, please stay calm," Tracy continued, her voice pushing through the chaos. "Stay with your families and follow the emergency procedures. This is important." Beside her, Mike returned, his expression serious. "Did you hear that? A lockdown?" "Yes, I did." Sarah took a breath, trying to compose herself. "We have to help keep everyone grounded. We can't have panic on top of everything else." It was a tough call, but Sarah felt her purpose lean towards the immediate needs of the people around her. "Let us work around the cafeteria," she suggested. "We can gather people in smaller groups, keep them informed, and hopefully calm." Mike nodded. "Great idea. You take that side, I'll handle this one." With Lily nestled safely between her mom and the crowd, Sarah moved to a table piled with half-finished plates and scattered utensils. She climbed on top, her heart pounding, voice steady as she called out to the group. "Everyone, please listen. I know this is scary, but we need to stay together and stay calm. Help is coming." The faces turned towards her, some nodding, others looking wide-eyed and unsure. "Let us stick together, just like families. We'll get through this. Focus on the person next to you." Sarah felt the strength of community around her, each face reflecting vulnerability, yet intertwined with a flicker of resilience. A sudden crash echoed from the far end of the cafeteria, drawing gasps. People turned, tension thickening in the air. "What now?" A few staff members rushed to investigate, and children began to murmur among themselves. "What was that?" one child asked, his voice quaking. "We're safe," Sarah reassured gently. "Just stay close and follow your adult's lead." But even she felt the chill creep into her spine. What if this was something graver than just panic? Just then, Tracy appeared in sight again, her expression grim. "We've lost communication with security. Everyone needs to stay alert. Lock the doors and keep watch." Sarah's stomach twisted. They were no longer just dealing with a chaotic event, but a potential threat looming over them. As people started to find their footing, Sarah's mind spun with the responsibilities she never expected to shoulder. Fear turned to resolve. "We'll find a way through this," she thought. But just as she contemplated her next move, A familiar voice burst through the crowd. "Mom!" The scream resonated, causing a ripple of dread. A young boy had separated from his father and had no one standing by him. His eyes, wide with terror, scanned the room frantically. In that instant, Sarah's heart sank again. Would one more child go lost today? Before she could even step off the table, the alarm rang louder, piercing through their hearts. Time was running out. How could they make it through the chaos yet again? As the alarm blared, echoing through the hospital corridors, Sarah felt her heart race. The chaos around her screamed for order, for clarity, for someone to step up. That someone had to be her. She inhaled deeply, determination flooding her veins. "Okay, we need to find those who are lost," she called out, her voice cutting through the panic like a beacon of hope. Parents began to gather, their collective resolve hardening the atmosphere. Mike returned, a look of fierce determination on his face. "What do we do?" he asked urgently. "Let us form search groups. We can cover more ground that way," Sarah suggested. "We'll split up and keep in touch through our phones. And make sure every child is accounted for." They divided into teams, a mixture of parents and nurses ready to take action. Sarah's team moved cautiously, checking rooms and calling out as they went. Every nervous breath felt like a countdown. Each echoing footstep cradled the weight of their mission, each lost voice drawing them further into a world of fear and urgency. "Is everyone okay?" Sarah shouted as they approached a small waiting area, the echoes of her words swallowed by anxious silence. They spread out, eyes scanning for anyone who looked frightened or disoriented. Just then, she spotted him, the small boy who had called for his mom. His little hands trembled at his side, tears rolling down his cheeks. Her heart twisted. "Hey, buddy," she said softly as she knelt down to his level, placing a comforting hand on his back. "What is your name?" "Ethan," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "It's okay, Ethan. We're going to find your mom together. Can you tell me what she looks like?" He nodded, wiping his tears. "She has brown hair and wears a red jacket." "Okay, let us go find her, Ethan," she assured him gently. She took his hand, and together they started down one of the hallways, calling out for his mom. Meanwhile, Mike led another search team, checking each corner and room. They were moving swiftly, the urgency of the situation on their minds. "Let us comb through the cafeteria again," he suggested. There might still be people waiting or watching. As they began their search back through the cafeteria, Sarah turned to Ethan. "What do you like to do? What is your favorite game?" She hoped to distract him, to give him something other than fear to focus on. "I like video games," he responded, a spark of excitement cutting through the gloom. "Can we play Minecraft when I find my mom?" "Yes, absolutely." Sarah smiled, feeling the tension loosen its grip. "I'm sure she'd love to play with you too." But the cheer was short-lived when, suddenly, the lights flickered, then went dim. The emergency lights kicked in, casting a soft glow but deepening every shadow. The alarm still wailed. "Everyone, stay together," Sarah shouted again, the worry creeping back in like an unwelcome specter. Just then, a wave of parents and hospital staff surged toward them from the opposite direction. "We found a group of kids," a nurse exclaimed, relief filling her voice. They were gathered in one of the pediatric rooms. Sarah's heart leaped. "Ethan, let us head there now." They rushed through the halls, relief pouring in as they passed other familiar faces. And there it was, the pediatric room, where laughter and chatter filled the air, breaking through the anxiety. Inside, they found a handful of children, all giggling. Ethan's face lit up. "Mom," he called again, his small voice piercing the commotion. Then he spotted a woman in a red jacket, kneeling beside another child, and he bolted toward her, sobbing with joy. As they embraced, Sarah felt her heart swell. It was moments like these nested within chaos that reminded her why they were all fighting. Families reunited, hugs exchanged, and tears of relief shared. "Thank you," Ethan's mom exclaimed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I thought I'd lost him." "Just doing what we had to do," Sarah replied, smiling through her own emotions. But the fight was not yet over. Tracy's voice resonated again through the building, firm yet soothing, giving instructions for everyone to remain calm and stay together. They gathered in the center again, parents and children alike, creating a sphere of community amidst unpredictability. Sarah glanced around, seeing the strength in their togetherness. For so long, They were isolated by policies, buried under the burdens of despair. But now, as they stood shoulder to shoulder, the fight had transformed into something powerful. Change is coming, Mike declared, voice clear and steady. Today, here in this moment, we made it clear that we want to stand down. Murmurs of agreement rolled through the group, igniting a renewed spirit. Each face turned toward the future, a unity born from the trials they faced. Solidarity glowed in their eyes, each heart pledging to support one another in whatever lay ahead. As they exited the building, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight shift from her shoulders. She glared down the path ahead, where challenges awaited, but for the first time, alongside uncertainty there grew an unwavering hope. And as she looked to the gathering families, she realized they were not just fighting for Jacob or Ethan or any individual child. They were fighting for every child in that very hospital, for every person who had ever felt silenced. This is just the beginning, she whispered to herself, and it was true. The fight for justice and compassion was only unfolding, but together, they were ready to take that step forward now. It's your turn to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next inspiring stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second to share.